The Package Installation Wizard guides you through deploying Integration Services packages to the file system or to an instance of SQL Server. Depending on the setting for the Allow Configuration Changes property of the deployment utility, it may also let you edit package configuration settings. The wizard reads the information in the deployment manifest file in order to perform these actions. Now, the destination machine has to have SQL Server Integration Services installed on it. Integration Services packages built with SQL Server data tools are not standalone packages. They don't install integration services as part of the package. Therefore, you have to install integration services on all environments where you deploy the packages to, such as the test server and the production server, before you can deploy and install your package. Now, you can launch the Package Installation Wizard by double-clicking a deployment manifest file that has a .SSIS deployment manifest extension. When you install integration services, it sets the default application for this file extension to the Package Installation Wizard. Then the Package Installation Wizard takes several actions as it guides you through the package deployment process. It starts by reading the deployment manifest file. The wizard reads the manifest file to determine which files the deployment includes and to determine whether the end user can edit configuration files. Then it copies the packages to the file system or SQL Server. Like other wizards, the Package Installation Wizard is interactive and asks you questions throughout the process. One of the options you have is to deploy the packages to the file system or to SQL Server. And again, this is if you're using the package store. Then it copies dependent files to a location that you specify on the Select Installation folder page. The dependent files that the Package Installation Wizard copies to the selected folder include package configuration files and any additional files that are in the manifest, which can include items such as README files and data import files. Then, depending on the settings in the manifest, the wizard guides you through making final configuration property settings before copying files to the installation folder. This is the main way you can adapt a package to its new environment. Next, it performs optional validation of the package properties. If you select the Validate Packages After Installation option in the Package Installation Wizard, the wizard checks the package and verifies that it can find all objects that are referenced, then creates a summary of its findings. The validation summary contains any errors that the wizard finds along with any informational messages. You should always select this option. I can't think of a single reason not to. And then it creates a log file. Package Installation Wizard creates a log file detailing the steps that occurred during deployment. This may be useful for troubleshooting if something goes wrong. The summary page of the wizard displays the location of that log file. Okay, so I'm first going to talk about deploying the package to the file system. When you start the Package Installation Wizard, the wizard presents two deployment options. One option is to deploy to the file system, and the other option is to deploy to SQL Server. When you deploy a package to the file system, by default the wizard copies the files needed to run the package to a project-specific folder in the Packages folder in the SQL Server installation folder. If you've installed SQL Server and Integration Services at the default location, the Packages folder is located at C, Program Files, Microsoft SQL Server 120, that's for 100 or 120 depending on SQL Server 2012 or 14, DTS, Packages for SQL Server, and it may be in the x86 version of that folder, with a subfolder there with the project name. It just depends on your bitness of your Windows versus SQL Server and so forth. Okay, so no matter where the Packages folder is located though, you can change the location for a particular project when running the wizard. The Package Installation Wizard copies all the files, except the manifest file, to the folder that you select. And any files that the package depends on to run go to the same location as the package. This means that DTSX package files end up in the same folder as the DTSX configuration files and any other dependent files. But again, I want to emphasize that the package path, that 100 or 120, whatever it is dependent upon the version of SQL Server that you're using. Now what I'll do is I'll use the package deployment utility that I created previously in order to deploy a package to the file system on the local machine. So this simulates copying the deployment utility folder to a different physical machine and running the wizard from there. And then I'll also look at the log file that the package installation wizard creates and look at the contents of the installation folder. Okay, so here I am in the deployment folder for this deployment project. And I'm going to double-click on the manifest file. And that starts up the package installation wizard. So you can read about what it does and the nice welcome that it presents you. And move on to the Deploy SSIS Packages page. This is where you select where you want to install the packages. So because this is using the package store, you have the option of the file system deployment or SQL Server deployment. So file system goes to a specified folder in the system, and SQL Server deployment goes to SQL Server itself, and it's actually stored within the MSDB database. Okay, so for this I'm going to select the file system deployment. And I'm also going to opt to validate the packages after installation. This will let me know if there's any problems, anything I can't find, anything was messed up, and it's essentially if it passes muster with the validation, then there's a pretty good chance that the package is going to execute successfully. Okay, so I'll click on Next, and then I can select where I want to deploy the package to. Okay, so it's going to install the SSIS packages and their dependencies in the following folder, and I can change this. But notice that by default, in this case, it's in the Program Files x86, Microsoft SQL Server, 120, because this is SQL Server 2014, DTS, Packages, and Deployment. And the last part of the file name here is Deployment, and that's the name of the project. Nothing magical about this being deployment. Okay, and I'll click on Next, and I get this error message. Could not create the directory C program files blah 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 blah. Access to the path is denied. Could not create the directory at that location. Okay, so I'm not quite sure why that happens, but I'm going to open up another instance of Windows Explorer and go to that location, Program Files, Microsoft SQL Server, 120, DTS, Packages, and create the folder here. Okay, not quite sure why that happens, but now theoretically it should work fine. And there we go. So we have the confirm installation, saying that it has enough information to install the packages from the project deployment. Now, this page is a bit misleading because there are actually 2 more pages to the wizard, or only one if you're not able to change configurations settings. But the wizard does have enough information to copy the files, which is what it's talking about here. All right, so I'll click on Next, and it says access to the path there is denied. Okay, so I've got some kind of a problem with permissions, and I suspect it has something to do with the bitness. So I am going to change this to C program files, not the x86 version of it. Come down here to SQL Server, 120, DTS, and Packages, and I'll make a new folder called Deployment. Click on Next, and Next. Okay, that time it succeeded. So there's something that has to do with the bitness problem of this configuration here, so just be aware of that. But anyway, C program files work, not the 32-bit version of it. Okay, so at this point, the wizard is finished copying the files. And because I have permissions to change configuration settings, I get this page, Configure Packages. So I can drill down into this, and you can see that I have access to the 2 different properties, the directory and the file spec. I'll maximize that. Both are strings, and here I can change what those values are. Okay, I don't need to make any changes. Those values are fine. I had already configured it for this environment. But if I need to change that path in particular, I could do that here. And I'll go on next, and I get the overall packages validation. And it tells me that everything validated successfully. By the way, in the configurations, you can have multiple configurations for a single package or a single project. And so you would be able to modify all of the configurations that are in scope in that previous page. Okay, again, so this page appears because I selected the option of validating the package, and everything looks fine. But if it didn't, it would tell me any problems that it found. A missing file, path not located, whatever. Okay, go to next, and there's the summary screen of everything that happened. And I can review that and click on Finish. Okay, so at this point, the wizard is completely done. Now, I just realized that I closed that summary page without checking where the log file is. Okay, so fortunately it's in a fairly standard location, and with any kind of luck I'll actually be able to find it. So where the standard log file location is under C, Users, the current username. I'm logged in as Don Kiley. Under App Data, and let's see, I'm not seeing App Data, and I suspect that's because I don't have hidden items selected. Yep, right there. Okay, so you have to show hidden files and folders for this to work. Go down into App Data, Local, Temp, and then it's going to be a temporary file. And hopefully it's going to be the latest one that was just created. So I am going to take a chance that that's the right one, and I will open with Notepad, deployment bin, deployment. Okay, yeah, this is the right one. Okay, so I lucked out. Anyway, if you want to look at the log file, make sure that you get the file name and location. Well, the location should pretty much always be the same, but the file name from that Finish the Package installation page of the wizard. Okay? All right, so here's the data. And let's see, parsing deployment manifest file, could not create the directory. Okay, so that's that initial error that I got. And then it copied the package to the program files. Okay, and then it updated the configuration file. Okay, so it all actually ended up working, but I initially had that problem because it couldn't create that directory. And so then I created it manually, and it put it in the program files, and everything succeeded with the installation. Okay, so the log file is really nice because it's a record of all the actions performed by the wizard, including when it updated the configuration file. There isn't a huge amount of details, such as recording the specific configuration file changes that you made, if you made any, but it provides a lot of information for troubleshooting any problems that you encounter. Okay, so I'm going to shut that down, and I'll go back to the package installation folder. I think I can get to that just by backing up. Okay, so this location, program files, deployment. No, that's the x86 version of it. So let me just take the shortcut here and delete that off, and that should take me straight to it. And that's the actual deployment folder. Okay, so notice that the package installation wizard copied only the package and the configuration file. If there had been any other dependent files, it would have copied those as well, but it no longer needs the manifest. The manifest file is just for installation. It's not necessary to execute the package. So it didn't copy that over. Okay, so at this point it's installed. It's installed to the file system. And you can also view the packages that you deployed to the file system by opening up Management Studio. But the way you do that is by opening up Management Studio and connecting to integration services. Okay, server name, we use Windows Authentication. Except that you get this error. It failed to retrieve data for this request. Connecting to integration services on the computer, blah, blah, blah. Access is denied. And it says, by default, only administrators have access to the integration services service. Now, what's really weird here is that I'm logged into this machine as a system admin. Didn't give me any option to elevate as administrator. So what I actually need to do is shut this down and restart Management Studio as an administrator. Now I get the UAC. I'm getting the permission. Switch to integration services again. Only option is to log in under Windows Authentication. And this time I can connect. Okay, so go figure. All right, so I can go down here into Stored Packages and the File System. Notice that I have my deployment, which again is the name of that project. And I can drill down and I have the deployment package that is installed and available within Integration Services. And again, this is using the package store, not the SSIS catalog.